Hello boys and girls, and welcome back to art class. I'm Miss Davis, and today we're going to be drawing a delicious fruit pie sitting on a windowsill. So let's get started. First of all, you're going to need a white piece of paper. Remember, it's always best to use blank white paper when you're drawing because those lines on the notebook paper are going to distract from your beautiful artwork. If all you have is notebook paper though, you use it. Okay, and we're going to turn our paper landscape style. So landscape style is what we use when we draw a piece of land. So if we look back at our example, we're also going to draw the land outside of our windowsill. And you can draw it however you want to, but we're still drawing a piece of land. So land usually goes left-right. It's very wide. So that's why we turn our paper landscape style when we draw a piece of land. Okay, some other things you're going to need are a pencil to draw with, an eraser to erase our mistakes with. We're going to need a black marker to trace our shapes with. Okay, and we're going to use markers today, or you can use crayons or whatever you have available at home to color it later. Just have something black for you to outline your shapes with. All right, let's put that stuff to the side and we're going to start drawing. So I'm going to take my pencil here. And I'm going to draw my pie below the halfway point so that we can see lots of detail outside of our window. So I'm going to start down sort of near the bottom on one side, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw a hill for the top of the pie. Okay, you don't want to start too low, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, so 1/4 of the way up. And I'm going to draw my hill all the way over to the other side. And there we go. Now we're going to draw the bottom of the top of the pie. I know that's confusing. So the bottom of the top of the pie doesn't need to be too close to the bottom because we've also got the pie crust to draw. And we've also got the pie tin that the pie sits in. All right, so this is going to be a valley. And I'm just going to kind of make the motion real quick. So the valley is going to dip down instead of up and then back up to our hill line, and it's going to connect the ends of our hills together. Now again, you don't want it to go so low that we can't draw our pie crust and our pie tin. So maybe just something like this. It doesn't have to be too dramatic. There we go. All right, now let's draw our pie crust. So we're going to start with some diagonal lines. So right here at the corner of the top of our pie, I'm going to draw one diagonal line out. And on the other side, I'm going to draw another diagonal line out. And now we're going to do a wavy line for our pie crust. So once again, our pie crust doesn't need to go all the way down to the bottom because we've got a pie tin to draw below our pie crust. So I'm just going to start right here at one of our diagonal lines, and I'm going to draw a wavy line around the top of the pie and just make sure it's not too close to the bottom. Take your time. There is no rush in drawing this, and you can always pause the video so you can catch up on the steps. That's the beauty of doing it video style. All right, let's draw the pie tin. So somewhere underneath the pie crust, we're going to draw a diagonal line in. So it's going to go towards you. If you're sitting right here, it's going to go towards you. All right, so I'm going to draw one diagonal line in. And on the other side, somewhere underneath my pie crust, I'm going to do the same thing, another diagonal line in. And we're almost done with our pie. So now we're going to draw the bottom of the pie tin. And this can touch the bottom if you want it to. Alright, so this is the very bottom of our pie. We really don't have anything else to draw, so if it happens to touch the bottom, not a big deal. So let's connect these two diagonal lines with another valley. So this is the very bottom of the pie tin. So here we go. Okay. Oh, mine went off the paper, and that is okay. Let's go on the other side. And it went off the paper just a little bit too. It is okay if your drawing goes off the paper. It actually makes it look a little more realistic than if you crammed it onto the paper. All right, let's add a detail to our pie. So one detail that I added to my pie was these little cut marks. So whenever you make a pie, some people like to take a knife and they'll just make a little cut in their pie. And then whenever the pie cooks, the juice kind of comes out of it, the juice of the pie. So we're going to draw those little cut marks in the top of our pie. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a teardrop. So watch this. So a teardrop is going to be pointy on the top, round on the bottom, and we just bring it back to a point. So it's almost like you're combining a triangle with a circle. All right, just practice it on the back. If you don't think you can do that, you can always turn to the back and practice your detail until you get it right. And then you can come back to the front and draw your teardrop. Now I'm going to do two more, and I'm going to make my point towards the very tip of the pie. So this one, I might even turn my paper here. So I think I'm going to turn my paper. And the point of my teardrop is going to point towards the center of the pie. And then I have my round bottom, and it comes back to a point. I'm going to do one more by turning my paper the other direction. Point, round, point. And now I've got my 3 cut marks on my pie, and you can color those whatever color you think the inside of the pie is. So if it's a strawberry pie, you could color those red. On mine, I made a blueberry pie, so I use purple, or you can use blue for blueberry pie. If it's a peach pie, it might be yellow or orange, but you choose what kind of pie you make. All right, now we're going to draw our windowsill. So I'm going to scoot the paper up just a little bit so you can see what I draw on the bottom. Now, I'm going to start on the side of our pie tin down here. So this diagonal line that we drew, somewhere in the middle of that diagonal line, I'm going to draw what's called a horizontal line. So a horizontal line goes left, right, and I'm going to go all the way to the right side of my paper. Okay, same thing on the other side. Here's the diagonal for our pie tin, and I'm going to start somewhere in the middle of that diagonal, and I'm going to draw another horizontal line all the way out to the left side of my paper, something like that. So now this is the windowsill that our pie is sitting on so it can cool. All right, let's draw the sides of the window, and then we're just going to draw our details. So the sides of the window, I'm going to start kind of outside of the pie crust, but down here on the windowsill, and I'm going to draw what's called a vertical line. So a vertical line goes up, down. So we're just going to draw this line all the way to the top of our paper. And there is the side of our window. And we can color that brown, or we can leave it white, whatever color your windowsill is at home maybe. Let's do another one. So outside of this pie crust, but down here starting on the windowsill, we're going to draw the side of the window. And we're using vertical lines, which means up, down, all the way to the top of your paper. Just remember, if you don't like this line, if it's not straight enough for you, you can pause the video and erase your mistakes and redo it however many times you need to get the results that you want. Okay, now let's draw whatever we see outside of the window. So let's look at my example real quick. I did just a simple background, but you can draw whatever you want. If you want to draw some kids playing outside, maybe you could draw the playground outside of the school. Maybe you can draw whatever you see in your backyard. Maybe you see a little bunny rabbit or a little squirrel. You could draw those outside. I'm just going to draw a simple hill with a tree on top, and maybe some details like a swing and a hole for a little squirrel and some clouds. So that's what I'm going to draw. You choose whatever you want to draw. Okay, so for my background, I'm going to draw a hill. So kind of like the top of the pie, I'm going to start on one side of my window, and I'm going to draw a big hill all the way to the other side. So it starts low, we curve high, and we go low again. And then I'm not going to see my entire tree. So if you look at my example again, there's not much room up here. So I'm just going to draw the bottom of the leaves and then a really thick tree branch. Okay, So the bottom of my leaves, I'm just going to draw some dips or some valleys, almost like we're drawing a wave line, like some ocean waves. And then I'm going to draw the tree trunk, and you can make these lines straight down. Those would be vertical lines. And these lines are never going to touch, so they're also called parallel lines. So when parallel lines, they never touch. They never come together like diagonal lines or perpendicular lines. So now we're going to draw the tree trunk, and we're going to draw two lines. You can make them straight if you want, but I like to put a little curve on them. Okay, you just draw those tree trunk lines however you want. I'm going to add one of my details now, which is a little hole in the tree trunk for maybe a squirrel or an owl. I'm going to draw a swing set coming off one of the tree branches. So I'm going to draw two vertical lines, and then the seat, which is a horizontal line. Left, right is horizontal, up, down is vertical. And now I'm just going to finish with some clouds and maybe a couple of pieces of grass on my hill. So my clouds, we're going to draw one big bump, a couple of little bumps, and a straight bottom. Maybe only one bump on that side. Okay, you could draw your clouds however you want. This is how I draw clouds. I draw a big bump, a couple of small bumps, maybe only one on this side, and then a flat bottom. So if you have a different way to draw clouds, you draw it your way. This one's going to go off the paper. Remember, if your drawing goes off the paper, it just makes it look more realistic. We don't want to crowd things onto our paper and make it look squished. All right, let's draw a couple more clouds. And there's my clouds. Let's draw some blades of grass. Now, if we draw these blades of grass, remember that the hill and the grass on the hill is coming towards you. And things start to look bigger as they come towards you, and they start to look smaller as they go farther away. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over here near the tree, and we're going to draw some teeny tiny blades of grass. Just a few, not too many. And as the hill comes towards us, these blades of grass get a little bigger. So let's draw some medium-sized blades of grass. And it's getting closer to us, so we're going to make these a little bigger now. Some large size. And it's getting even closer to the window. Let's draw some really big pieces of grass. You could add some flowers. Remember, they would be the same. If they were far away, they would be small. If they are closer to the window, they would be bigger. And you just add whatever details you want. If you want to draw a little squirrel or a bunny rabbit, you go for it. If you want to draw some kids playing outside, you go for it. If you want to draw a rock and roll concert or a Taco Bell, you go for it. All right, this is your pie drawing. You make it how you want. You color it how you want. And now we're going to trace. I am done tracing all of my shapes, what we call outlining. Now, I'm going to make sure that all of my pencil lines are gone. So I'm going to take my Pokemon eraser here, and I'm going to hold my paper tight and just erase over all of my pencil lines, making sure my pencil lines are gone. Now, remember from the last video, if you cannot erase your pencil lines, maybe you drew a little too hard, and that's okay. That is a skill that comes with practice. So if you don't like it this time, just keep practicing. This does not have to be a masterpiece at all. This does not have to be a masterpiece, okay? This is all just practice. You're practicing your drawing skills, and one of those is to draw lightly so that if you have to erase, it erases well. It's time to color. I'm going to speed up the video again, and you guys have fun coloring. Just remember, if you get behind on any of these steps, you just pause and you go backwards a little bit, and you can rewatch this as many times as you need to get those steps right. And there is my pie drawing. A couple of things that I noticed on my drawing. Number one, I would have loved to make my pie tin gray, but I don't have a gray marker. Out of all of these markers I have, I don't have a gray. So I just use sort of a light blue. Another thing that I learned is that if your markers are not covering very well, maybe they're running out, maybe you're going too fast and the ink isn't coming out fast enough for the speed you're coloring at, you can stop coloring because your paper's wet, and you can let your paper dry and then come back and color again with your markers. So a little quick tip here on coloring with your markers. You don't want to keep adding marker color over the same area because markers are a wet media. They're a wet supply. And if you keep going over the same area with a wet art supply like markers or paint, you're going to tear a hole in your paper. You're going to kind of disintegrate that paper surface, and it's going to eventually tear a hole in your paper. So my quick tip is, if you need to go back over an area with a wet art supply like markers or paint, let your paper dry completely, then come back and do it. So, for example, I had to go back over my green on my example, not this one, but my example, and I noticed that my paper was starting to disintegrate. So what I did was I stopped coloring. I let my paper completely dry, and then I went back over it, and since my paper had dried, it wasn't disintegrating anymore. So that's just a little quick tip with markers or any wet media. Don't keep going over the same area on your paper with a wet media. Let it dry in between layers, and that's how you can get it solid. Alright, and I made mine a strawberry pie this time. You make your pie whatever kind of fruit pie you want. You draw whatever kind of details you want in your background beyond your window here. And I hope you guys have fun with this drawing, okay? Alright guys, I'm Miss Davis. Next week, try to get some pink paint and a Coca-Cola bottle. So a Coca-Cola bottle has 5 points on the bottom of the bottle. That's going to be very important for our art project next week. Get some pink paint. Now, if you can't get that, I will let you color your project, but try your best to get a Coca-Cola bottle and some pink paint for next week. And I have all of the supplies that you need for next week down in the description of this video, so you can go there and take a look at class next week. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this project. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys for art class next week. Bye!